You have to love Element RC for continuing to give us unique trail truck offerings. And what's on the bench here is really interesting. It's the new Enduro Utron Sport Edition. And what makes it stand out is it's got this FJ Cruiser Australian Ute style body on it, the Sport Edition chassis setup, and it's got the new IFS 2 front suspension. I tore it out of the truck so we could see everything up close. I'm also going to show you guys the rest of the chassis, which is kind of like the Sport Edition Enduro that we've seen before, and we're going to take a closer look at this body set. After that, we're going to take it out to the trail to see how it performs. So this is how the ready-to-run Utron comes out of the box, assembled, painted, electronics installed, and I'll show you the additional bits it comes with in a little bit, but let's get right into the body set here. It's one of those love it, hate it bodies, I think, and I actually love some parts and hate other parts, to be honest with you. It's obviously Toyota FJ inspired, but with a twist. They gave it a Australian Ute flair. You can see it's got a truck bed to it. It's a two-door. And let's go over what I love about it. I actually love the front end because it's the FJ Cruiser style front end, just doesn't have the Toyota logo there. But I really like that white bezel. It's a separate molded piece and they have these transparent amber turn signals that you could add LED lights to. The front grille area, the hood looks very cool to me. It's when we get to these fenders here, we got this really tall fender before you get to the fender flare, and that's where it just falls a little bit short for me. Same with the rear. And then it's got this massive tailgate, kind of bare tailgate to it. Transparent red taillights, but they don't have an LED mount setup for it. You could probably drill a hole in the rear Lexan and kind of shove and glue an LED light in there, but that's kind of a bummer because it's a really nice piece. The bed has been painted black and you can see they've got black trim. They went and masked off the roof and painted it white, which is really cool. But they didn't leave us clear windows. And on the other Sport Edition, they gave us clear windows, but it's not here. I really wish they did that. They did all this other work, but they didn't give us the clear windows. So that is one other, kind of downside to this body. Now let's take a quick look at the chassis here. This section here is pretty much the same as the Sport Edition that we've seen before. They gave us inner fenders up front, the metal ladder frame chassis, reinforced shock hoops, the shorter battery tray installed. They also give you a longer battery tray if you need that for standard packs, the rock slider steps, fuel cell, and then into the drivetrain. This has the newer Stealth XF's transmission to it, which positions the motor up front. The motor mounts to an aluminum motor plate, and then it's got a standard one-to-one transmission setup to it, so all four wheels are driving at the same rate, whereas with some of their other vehicles you could go and overdrive the front. That is an option you could buy and easily install. Then they have the slider drive shafts down to the front and rear. The rear axle on this is the updated version with the larger output bearings on it, metal gears, bushings throughout this entire kit since it is the Sport. Steel shafts in the rear, but they do have universals up front. They have the plastic threaded shocks on here. They are oil filled. They've got a bleeder cap up top and they have the small spring. They give you the shock perches and the collars on it so you could put a standard spring on it. Plastic links in the rear with palm filled ball studs. Now let's just go over the electronics really quick. For the speed controller, they have the SC480X from Reedy. I like that it's on this little radio tray. It has the Reedy 16 turn 5-slot motor, which will give this plenty of torque. The receiver inside the box is from FlySky, comes with a FlySky radio system, and then they have a T-plug. You're gonna need a 2 or 3S battery pack to power this. And then for steering, the Reedy 1523 metal geared servo with a metal servo horn out. Actually, let me talk about the tires. There's now 4.19 pin seeker tires, so they're a little bit smaller diameter than what we saw on the other Sport Edition truck, mounted to these nice black 1.9 wheels. Now let's talk about the front suspension. It's the IFS 2. It's a licensed Camberg engineering setup. It's what a lot of people are talking about since this was released before I got my hands on one. It's got symmetrical suspension arms side to side. They've reversed the pivot ball, so it's higher up on the knuckle, which gives this thing a lot more ground clearance than the IFS 1 front suspension setup. And that's what a lot of people were looking for, just some more clearance out of this. And what this setup also does is it eliminates bumps here. This is really like the look of the arms on this, the horseshoe shaped upper arm. And then the steering rack setup is just so cool. It's a sliding rack type of system and it's fixed to a steel plate that supports 2 pivot points where they have these bushings, and the steering plate is actually cast metal as well. slides back and forth in those bushings, and that's how you get this nice sliding rack with 45 degrees of steering without any bump steering. It's a really solid looking setup. It's got a plastic cap on the top of it. Now the only downside I could see here to this particular steering setup is the bottom section is open and there's grease in there, so if you get any rocks and debris into it, maybe that's gonna start binding it up, but it really, I think, depends on the type of driving you're going to do with this. It is something I wanted to point out. When I did go and drop this out for you guys, it was actually really easy to do, not much more work, and so if you have to do any maintenance, I don't think that's gonna be a problem. I like this element skid plate that they have on it. Getting to the front spool and metal gear, metal ring and pinion gear was fairly easy. Again, they have the larger bushing on that to support the pinion gear, and they have the universal axle set up. So it's really well designed. Love the way it looks, love the way it operates. The servo plate up on top also has a cutout if you want to go and run a winch servo, and they have the guides for that through the front bumper. Actually, I didn't talk to you guys about the front bumper. Really good approach angle to this bumper, lots of detail to it, and the rear bumper is pretty simple as well. Good departure angle to that. I like the bar design to it. Let me show you what else comes in the box. There's the FlySky radio system. There is the decal sheet, instruction manual, instruction sheets for the electronics, and here is the package with the extra radio tray, body mount, and perches and spring collars. All right guys, now's the time to see how this new suspension setup handles the trail. Here's the view for today guys, Terrywell Park in Connecticut. We'll start here with something easy, just go through these tree roots. And then I actually have to hang the tire on this tree because that rock in front of you just drops right off. So I gotta put the tires up on it. We got some traction from those pin seekers, there we go. Oh, we're sliding. We're gripping, you can hear them grabbing. There we go. All right, let's see how much we could side hill this thing. Keep that tire up on that ledge right there. Oh, I think I'm scraping fender. That tire's rolling in the front. Some good control. A few rocks here with some jagged peaks to them. We've got to show you that front end clearance. Just slid right over that. Nice. Cleared that. Perfect. Check out this approach angle here. See how much clearance we got from that bumper. Just coming into it nice and slow. Got some traction. Oh, caught that rear. That went right up. Just a little stall from the speed controller. We'll check out the drag brake. Nice and slow, there we go. So far, I'm pretty impressed. I like the suspension a lot better than the original IFS. We've got some more control here from this rig. I think it's a great platform. Well, hello IFS 2. That was a really enjoyable driving experience. I thought I was gonna have some fun with this rig. Element rigs usually handle well, but this really exceeded my expectations. I think it is much better than the IFS 1 system, and obviously it's got a lot better ground clearance to it, and with that skid, I mean, it just slides over whatever obstacles in front of you, and the only real trouble I was having was getting a little overconfident in what I could crawl over, and sometimes I would get hung up on the rear axle. So it wasn't so much the front end. I like the amount of angle you could get on this side hailing it before it rolls over. In fact, you know, so the tire starts to roll over before this thing finally tips over. There are some limitations, obviously, with the ready to run electronics. It's fairly good electronics, but there was times where I stalled out the servo or I just didn't have enough power to blip over an obstacle, and I was running a 2S battery pack, but the system just hesitate. I'd have to pump the throttle and I was able to get over stuff. But the Sport Edition platform is a really good platform, and if you're looking to build up a project off of something and want an IFS front end, I mean, this is really a great option. Now the body, again, it's a love-hate it type of thing. I really appreciate that they were going for something new, something different, but I think they should have spent a bit more time refining the look. And it is something that could easily be changed. There's already people talking about putting the Night Runner body on it, and you know, that's obviously gonna make it look really cool and perform really well. I want to hear your thoughts on the Utron in the comment section below. I'll have links in the video description. And for this one, I'm going to say good job, Element. I can't wait to see what you come up with next.